8 years after my mother erased me from the family. She stood on my porch with a suitcase in one hand and a bill for $947. $500 in the other. Not an apology. Not a birthday card for the grandchildren she had never met. A bill. She thought I would be too shocked to say no. What she did not know was that for 8 years, I had kept every returned letter, every ignored photo, every painful receipt inside one blue binder, and before that morning was over, her list of demands would sit on my kitchen table beside my list of truth. My name is Evelyn Carter, and this is the story of how my family came back for my money and left with the one thing they feared most: the truth. I heard the doorbell just as I finished answering my last email of the afternoon. It was an ordinary Tuesday in late October, the kind of quiet afternoon I had learned to appreciate after years of building a business and raising 2 children. Ethan and Emma would be home from school in less than an hour. My husband, Noah, had texted me that he was leaving the office early so we could have dinner together for once without laptops open on the kitchen table. I assumed it was a delivery driver. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, walked through the hallway, and opened the front door. For a second, I honestly forgot how to breathe. My mother stood on the porch. Patricia Brooks looked older than the last time I had seen her. Her hair was almost completely silver now, carefully styled the way she always liked it. She wore a dark wool coat despite the mild weather, and one hand rested on the handle of a small rolling suitcase. 8 years. 8 years without a phone call. 8 years without a birthday card. 8 years without asking if I was alive. She looked at me the way someone looks at a stranger whose face they almost recognize. I looked back at the woman who had once been the center of my entire world. Neither of us spoke. For one fragile moment, a part of me that I thought had disappeared years ago quietly whispered that maybe she had come to say she was sorry. Maybe people really could change. Maybe time had softened whatever had hardened inside her. She finally cleared her throat. I only need a few minutes. Not, how have you been? Not, I missed you. Not, can I hug you? Just a few minutes. I stepped aside without thinking. She walked into my house with slow, careful steps. Her eyes briefly moved across the living room. Family photos covered one wall. Ethan smiling with missing front teeth. Emma holding a blue ribbon from her piano recital. Noah standing beside me on the Oregon coast. Both of us laughing so hard neither of us was looking at the camera. She barely glanced at any of it. She sat at my kitchen table as though she had rehearsed this visit. I poured 2 cups of coffee out of habit. She never touched hers. The silence stretched between us. I waited. She reached into a leather folder she had carried under her arm. For one foolish second, I wondered if she had brought old photographs. Instead, she placed several neatly organized sheets of paper on the table and gently pushed them toward me. I looked down. Columns. Numbers. Monthly expenses. Mortgage balance. Medical treatments. Retirement savings. College fund. Living expenses. At the bottom of the final page sat one number: $947,500. I stared at it for several seconds before looking back at her. She folded her hands calmly. Families help each other. Evelyn, that was all she said. No apology. No explanation. No acknowledgement that she had disappeared from my life for nearly a decade. Just numbers. I looked at every line on those pages. Each expense had been calculated with incredible precision. Every dollar had a purpose. Everything except the years she had erased. I finally asked the only question that mattered. Is there anything else you wanted to say? She frowned slightly, almost confused by the question. You and Noah have done very well for yourselves. Your father and I are getting older. Claire has her own family now. We all have responsibilities. Still nothing. No mention of Ethan. No mention of Emma. She had grandchildren she had never met. She didn't even ask their names. I realized then that the tiny piece of hope I had been carrying all afternoon had quietly died. She had not come because she missed me. She had come because she needed something. I looked at the papers one more time. Then I looked at her. "You spent a long time putting this together." She nodded. I wanted everything to be fair. Fair. The word settled heavily inside me. Fair. 8 years ago, I would have argued. I would have cried. I would have begged her to understand. The woman sitting across from her now wasn't that person anymore. Without saying another word, I stood up. She watched me walk toward the hallway. I opened the door to my home office. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of my computer. At the bottom drawer of an old oak filing cabinet sat a blue binder. It wasn't locked. It never had been. I slid it out carefully and held it against my chest for a moment. The edges were worn from years of being opened and closed. I carried it back to the kitchen. My mother looked at it without recognition. I placed it beside her paperwork. On one side of the table rested a carefully prepared request for almost $1 million. On the other rested 8 years of silence. She tilted her head. "What is that?" I rested my hand on the cover. "I have been keeping this for 8 years. She waited for me to continue. I didn't. The room became impossibly still. Outside, I heard children laughing somewhere down the street. A dog barked. A car drove past the house. Ordinary sounds from an ordinary afternoon. None of them reached the space between my mother and me. She glanced at the binder again. "I don't understand." I nodded slowly. "I know." Then I looked down at the faded blue cover and ran my fingers across it. There was a time when I believed this binder existed because I couldn't let go of the past. I was wrong. It existed because one day I knew I would need to remember exactly how I got here. If my mother truly wanted to understand why I could never write the check she had just asked for, then I couldn't begin with today. I had to begin with the day I brought Noah home to meet my family. The first time Noah came with me to Ashford, Ohio. He wore a navy button-down shirt I had ironed twice because I was more nervous than I wanted to admit. We had been together for almost 3 years by then. We met at Ohio State in 2014, in a computer lab that always smelled faintly like burnt coffee and printer toner. I was studying accounting and information systems. Noah was studying computer science. He was the kind of man who listened all the way to the end of a sentence before answering. I had never realized how rare that was until I met him. When I told my parents I wanted to bring him home, my mother paused on the phone. "Home for dinner?" she asked. "Yes." "Mom, just dinner." She was quiet long enough for me to know she had already decided how she felt. "Your father and I will set another plate." That was Patricia Brooks. Polite enough that no one could accuse her of being cruel. Cold enough that you felt the door closing before you heard the lock. Noah sensed it before we even got there. He held my hand in the passenger seat as we drove past cornfields and white church signs, past the diner where my father used to take Claire and me for pancakes after Sunday service. "You sure about this?" "Eh?" he asked. I smiled too quickly. "They just need to meet you." He glanced at me, gentle but not fooled. "And if meeting me doesn't fix it..." I squeezed his hand. "Then they will have to learn." I said it like I believed it. My childhood home sat at the end of Maple Ridge Lane, a pale yellow house with black shutters and a porch swing. My father had built one summer when I was 12. My mother opened the door before we reached the steps. Her hair was perfectly pinned, her lipstick fresh, her smile practiced. "Evelyn." Then her eyes moved to Noah. "You must be Noah." He offered his hand. "Mrs. Brooks, thank you for having me." My mother took his hand for half a second, then released it. "Richard is in the living room." My father stood when we walked in. He looked older than he had the last time I visited, though maybe that was just the tension in the room making everything sharper. He shook Noah's hand firmly. "Good to meet you, son." For 1 second, I relaxed. Then I saw my mother watching that handshake like it was a mistake she would correct later. Claire arrived 10 minutes after dinner started. She breezed in wearing perfume and confidence, kissed my mother on the cheek, and gave me a quick hug that felt more like a performance than affection. "So this is Noah," she said. Noah smiled. "Nice to meet you." Claire looked him over in a way that made my stomach tighten. "Evelyn has told us so little." That wasn't true. I had told them plenty. They had simply refused to ask follow-up questions. Dinner was roast chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes, and my mother's famous dinner rolls. Everything looked perfect. Everything tasted like dust. My father asked Noah about college. Noah answered clearly, respectfully. He told him about his mother, Gloria, a retired school librarian from Cleveland. He told him how she had worked 2 jobs after his father left when he was little. He told him he wanted to build software that helped small businesses stay compliant without needing expensive legal departments. My father nodded. "Sounds practical." Noah smiled. "I hope so, sir." My mother folded her napkin in her lap. "And your father, Noah, is he involved in your life?" The table went still. Noah did not look embarrassed. That was one of the things I loved about him. He did not treat his own pain like something shameful. "No, ma'am." "He left when I was 4. My mother nodded slowly, as though confirming a suspicion. That must have been difficult. It was, but my mother made sure I never felt without family. I loved him for that answer. My mother did not. After dinner, Claire helped clear plates while my father retreated to the sink and washed dishes he had not been asked to wash. Noah offered to help, but my mother told him guests should sit. She said it kindly. She meant, "Stay where I can see you." When Noah stepped out onto the porch to take a call from Gloria, my mother cornered me in the hallway. "Evelyn, we need to talk." My chest tightened. "About what?" She lowered her voice. "About whether you have thought this through." I stared at her. "Thought what through?" "This," she said, glancing toward the porch. "Him, his background, his family situation, the life you are choosing." I remember the word choosing, like love was a crime I had committed on purpose. "Mom, Noah is kind, responsible, brilliant, and he loves me." She sighed as if I were a child defending a stray dog. "That is not always enough. It should be, not in the real world." I looked toward the kitchen. My father had stopped washing dishes. His hands were still in the sink, but his shoulders were rigid. "Dad," I said. He did not turn around. My mother touched my arm. "People will talk." "Evelyn." There it was. Not, "Are you happy?" Not, "Is he good to you?" People will talk. I pulled my arm away. "Let them." Her face changed then. Only a little. Enough for me to see the anger beneath the manners. "You have always thought being smart meant you knew better than everyone else." "No," I said quietly. "I thought being your daughter meant you would want me loved." Noah came back inside before she could answer. He looked from my face to hers and understood more than I wanted him to. On the drive back to Columbus, I kept apologizing. "I'm sorry." He shook his head. "You don't have to apologize for them. I should have prepared you." "You did." I looked at him. "No, I didn't." He was quiet for a few miles. Then he said, "If you decide this is too much, I will understand." I turned toward him so fast my seatbelt caught. "Don't say that. I mean it. Evelyn, I love you, but I don't want to be the reason you lose your family." I stared out at the dark highway. If I lose them because they cannot accept the person I love, then maybe they were already making me choose long before you came along. 2 weeks later, the letter arrived. cream stationery, blue ink, my mother's handwriting. I sat on the edge of my bed in my apartment and read it 3 times before Noah came home. It was not long. That somehow made it worse. 4 paragraphs. No shouting. No ugly words. Just polished sentences arranged like a sentence handed down by a judge. She wrote that marriage was not just about love. She wrote that family values mattered. She wrote that I was creating division. And near the end, she wrote that if I went through with marrying Noah, I should not expect the Brooks family to stand beside me. When Noah found me, I was still holding the paper. He knelt in front of me. I handed it to him. He read it once, slowly. His jaw tightened. I waited for him to curse, to say something angry, to tell me we should drive to Ashford and confront them. Instead, he folded the letter carefully and set it on the coffee table. What do you want to do? That question broke me, because no one in my family had asked me that. Not once. A month later, Noah proposed in our tiny kitchen with no audience, no photographer, no speech practiced for social media. He held both my hands and said he wanted a life with me, not one built on proving anything to anyone. I said yes before he finished. We were married in 2017 at the Multnomah County Courthouse in Portland. After we moved west for Noah's first software job, there were 12 people there. Friends, 2 co-workers, Gloria Carter in a soft blue dress, holding a small bouquet she had made herself from grocery store flowers. My family did not come. My father did not call. Claire sent one text the morning of the wedding. I hope you know what you're doing. I did not answer. There was no aisle for anyone to walk me down, just a polished hallway, fluorescent lights, and a clerk who mispronounced my middle name. Noah held my hands through the whole ceremony. His palms were warm. Mine were shaking. After the judge pronounced us married, Gloria came to me first. She wrapped her arms around me, tight and certain. Welcome to the family, baby. I held on to her longer than I meant to, because in that moment, standing in a courthouse hallway with no mother, no father, and no sister beside me, I realized something I had been too afraid to admit. A family could close a door on you, but sometimes another one opened before you even knew you needed it. That night, Noah and I ate Thai takeout on the floor of our apartment because we had not bought a dining table yet. My wedding dress hung from the bedroom door. His suit jacket was tossed over the back of a chair. We laughed because the rice had spilled in the bag and because the whole day had been imperfect in every possible way. Then, after Noah fell asleep, I checked my phone one more time. No missed calls. No messages from my parents. Nothing from Claire. I sat in the dark for a while, still wearing my wedding ring, and understood that my marriage had begun with a promise from Noah and an absence from everyone else. For a long time, I thought that absence was the worst thing they could give me. I was wrong. The worst came after I tried to send them proof that I was still their daughter. 11 days after our wedding, the envelope came back. I remember because it was raining in Portland, the kind of steady gray rain that made the whole city look like it had been washed in dishwater. Noah had just left for work, and I was standing barefoot in our apartment kitchen, holding a mug of coffee I had forgotten to drink. The envelope sat on the floor beneath the mail slot. At first, I smiled. I thought maybe my mother had written back. Then I saw the red stamp across the front. Return to sender. My hands went cold. Inside was the wedding photo I had mailed to Ashford. Noah and me on the courthouse steps, his arm around my waist, my hair blown sideways by the wind, both of us laughing. On the back I had written one sentence: "We are happy. I hope someday you can be happy for us too." The envelope had not been opened. I sat at our little folding table and stared at it for a long time. I did not cry right away. I think some kinds of pain are too precise for tears. They just sit there, clean and sharp, waiting for you to understand what they mean. When Noah came home that evening, he found the envelope beside my plate. He picked it up slowly. Ew. I am so sorry. I nodded, because if I tried to speak, I knew I would break. He sat across from me and reached for my hand. You don't have to keep sending things. I know. Then why do it to yourself? I looked at the unopened envelope because I don't want them to say I disappeared first. That was the beginning, not of the silence. That had already started. It was the beginning of the blue binder. I bought it at a small office supply store near our apartment. Navy blue, 3 rings, clear sleeve on the front. I told myself it was just a place to keep documents. I was an accountant by training. I kept receipts, tax papers, warranty booklets for appliances we couldn't afford to replace. Filing things made sense to me, so I slid the returned wedding photo into the first plastic sleeve. Then I added the letter my mother had written before the wedding. Then the Christmas card that came back in December. Then the birthday card for my father that returned in February. Each one got a date. Each one got a note. Not dramatic, not emotional. Just facts. Mailed October 18th. Returned October 29th. Mailed December 10th. Returned December 22nd. No response. No call. No message. I did not keep them because I was planning revenge. I kept them because something inside me needed proof that I had tried. By our second year in Portland, Noah and I had moved from that first apartment into a small rental house in Selwood with uneven floors and a kitchen window that stuck in the summer. Noah worked long days at a software company downtown. At night, he built the first version of what would later become Very Comply Solutions on an old desk in the spare room. I worked for a regional accounting firm, then came home and helped him build spreadsheets, pricing models, and customer notes until midnight. We were tired all the time. We were also happy. Some nights, Noah would close his laptop, rub his eyes, and say, "We are either building a company or slowly losing our minds." I would hand him a bowl of instant ramen and say, "Why not both?" Those were the years no one envied us. No one from Ashford called to see if we were eating dinner at midnight. No one asked if rent was late. No one asked if Noah was sleeping on the couch because he did not want to wake me when he finally came to bed at 3 a.m. Gloria did. Every Sunday evening, Noah's mother called, "Did you two eat real food today?" Noah would roll his eyes. "Yes." "Mom," I would call from the kitchen. "Cereal counts if you eat it from a bowl." Gloria would laugh and say, "Evelyn, baby, don't let my son convince you that ambition is a food group." She visited every few months, bringing casseroles, books from her old library friends, and a calmness that filled whatever room she entered. She never asked me to talk about my mother. She never pushed. She just stayed. When Ethan was born in 2019, Gloria was on the first flight from Cleveland. I had never been so exhausted in my life. Ethan was small and red-faced and furious at the world. Noah cried the first time he held him. I cried because Noah cried. Gloria stood beside my hospital bed, touched Ethan's cheek with one finger, and whispered, "Hello, little man. You are already so loved." 2 days later, I mailed my parents a birth announcement. I included a photo of Ethan wrapped in a white blanket, sleeping against Noah's chest. For 9 days, I hoped. On the 10th day, the envelope returned to sender. I took it to the bedroom, opened the bottom drawer of my dresser, and pulled out the binder. Noah followed me. "Elv, I know. You don't have to do this right now." "I do." I slipped the announcement into a plastic sleeve and wrote the date. Noah stood beside me without touching me. After a long silence, he said, "What is the binder for now?" I looked down at Ethan's photo behind the plastic. One day, he might ask why he doesn't know them. And you want to show him this. Not when he is little. I close the binder gently. But one day, I want him to have facts. Not my anger. Not their excuses. Just facts. Noah nodded. He understood records. Engineers kept logs. Accountants kept receipts. Mothers kept what their children might need later. 2 years later, Emma was born on a stormy April morning, and Gloria came again with a yellow blanket she had crocheted herself. Ethan toddled into the hospital room wearing dinosaur pajamas and announced, "Baby loud." Gloria laughed so hard she had to sit down. Emma was softer than Ethan had been, quieter, observant from the beginning, as if she had arrived already suspicious of the world. I sent another announcement to Ashford. This time, the envelope came back different. The flap had been opened, then resealed with clear tape. I held it under the kitchen light and stared at the uneven strip of tape across the back. No one noticed my face. "What is it?" Someone opened it. He took the envelope carefully. "Are you sure?" "Yes." The photo was still inside. Emma in a pink hospital cap. Ethan leaning over her bassinet, proud and confused. On the back, I had written, "Ethan is a big brother now. Her name is Emma Rose." I knew my father had opened it. I don't know how I knew. I just did. Richard Brooks had spent his whole life doing quiet things he never admitted to. Fixing loose porch steps before anyone tripped. Leaving cash in my college textbooks when he knew I would not accept it. Standing in the doorway while my mother made decisions he disliked. Then saying nothing. I imagined him at the kitchen table in Ashford, holding that photograph, looking at the granddaughter he had never met, maybe smiling, maybe crying. Then I imagined my mother walking in. I put the envelope in the binder. My hand shook when I wrote the note. Opened and resealed. Photo viewed. Still returned. That one hurt differently, because it meant someone in that house had seen my children and still chosen silence. Years passed in small scenes. Ethan learned to ride a bike in the driveway while Noah ran behind him yelling, "I am right here, buddy." Emma played piano with 2 fingers and bowed after every wrong note. Gloria came for Halloween and sewed Ethan's dragon tail back on 5 minutes before trick-or-treating. She came for Thanksgiving and taught Emma how to crimp pie crust. She came for Christmas and fell asleep on the couch while the children covered her in wrapping paper bows. The kids called her Grandma Gloria. No one told them to. They just knew. Then one Friday in 2nd grade, Ethan came home with a bright green flyer from school. He put it on the kitchen counter. "Mom, what is Grandparents' Day?" I froze with my hand still on the refrigerator door. Emma looked up from her coloring book. "Is Grandma Gloria coming?" I smiled. "Of course she is." Ethan frowned. "Do we have another grandma?" The room went quiet. Noah looked at me from across the kitchen. He did not speak. He let the moment belong to me. I knelt in front of Ethan. "You have Grandma Gloria, and she loves you very much. But is there another one?" I took a breath. There is someone who is my mother. She lives far away. Why doesn't she visit? There were 100 answers I could have given. Most of them were true. None of them belonged in the heart of a 7-year-old boy standing in dinosaur socks. Some people don't know how to love at the right time. Ethan thought about that. That sounds sad. It is. Emma slid off her chair and leaned against my shoulder. "Can Grandma Gloria come twice then?" I laughed. Even though my throat hurt, she would love that. That night, after the kids were asleep, I found Emma standing in the hallway outside my office. "What are you doing?" "Sweetheart." She pointed at the bottom drawer, which was slightly open. I was looking for blue markers. "Is that a photo book?" The binder was visible inside. I closed the drawer gently. "Not exactly." "Can I see it?" "Not yet." I brushed hair from her forehead. When you are old enough to understand that grown-ups can love badly too. She did not understand. That was the point. Later, Noah found me sitting on the office floor with the binder in my lap. He leaned against the door frame. I want to call her. I looked up. Who? Your mother? Noah. I know you don't want a war. I know. But I am tired of watching you get hurt by people who don't even have the courage to say your name. His voice was calm, but his hands were tight at his sides. For the first time, I saw how much my family's silence had cost him too. She won't hear you. I said, maybe not. And if she does, she will make it about you. He looked away. I closed the binder. I don't want our children growing up around a fight that never ends. Noah crossed the room and sat beside me. Then we don't fight. He took my hand. But we also don't pretend it didn't happen. That was when I understood what the binder had become. It was not a weapon. It was not a wound I kept reopening. It was a record of the truth, preserved for the day my children were old enough to ask harder questions. A few months later, our attorney, Rachel Donovan, helped us update our will and set up a living trust. It felt strange discussing guardianship and beneficiaries while Emma was at home learning to tie her shoes, and Ethan still believed pancakes counted as dinner if they had blueberries. Rachel was practical, kind, and direct. You're not doing this because something bad is going to happen, she told me. You're doing it because parents protect their children before anyone else gets a say. That sentence stayed with me. Parents protect their children. I wished mine had. By the time I placed the estate documents in our fire safe, the binder had grown thick enough that the rings no longer closed easily. I bought dividers, years, dates, notes. Not because I was waiting for my mother to return. I had stopped waiting. Or at least, I thought I had. What I did not know was that while I was learning to live without the Brooks family, the Brooks family was about to learn that the daughter they had erased had built a life they could no longer ignore. I never noticed the exact day our lives started changing. There was no single phone call that made everything different. No investor walked through the door waving a check. No magazine declared us an overnight success. It happened the way most meaningful things do. One ordinary Tuesday after another, one customer after another, one late night after another. While other families were watching television after dinner, Noah and I were sitting side by side at our kitchen table with 2 laptops open, trying to solve problems that felt bigger than us. Very Comply Solutions was never built on brilliant moments. It was built on thousands of exhausting ones. There were months when we barely paid ourselves. Months when our biggest client threatened to leave. Months when Noah slept on the office couch because deploying new software overnight was easier than driving home. There were mornings when I packed school lunches while reviewing financial reports on my phone. There were evenings when Ethan practiced spelling words beside my desk while Emma colored pictures next to Noah's keyboard. Life wasn't balanced. It was simply shared. One evening, Noah leaned back in his chair and rubbed his face. I miss sleeping. I laughed without looking up from my spreadsheet. I vaguely remember that. He smiled. Do you think one day we'll tell the kids this company started with cold pizza and secondhand office furniture? They'll never believe us. They shouldn't. That became our joke. Every milestone felt impossibly small. Then one spring morning, everything began moving faster. We signed our largest client, not a giant corporation, just a regional healthcare network. But it was enough. Enough to hire 3 more employees. Enough to rent a real office. Enough to believe we might actually make this work. I still remember walking through that office the first day. Fresh paint, empty desks, coffee that tasted terrible, hope everywhere. I stood in the middle of the room while Noah unlocked the front door. We did it. He shook his head. No. What? We're just getting started. He was right. The work became harder. The stakes became bigger. Success, I learned, simply gives you larger problems. At home, very little changed. Noah still cooked dinner twice a week because he insisted my pasta was somehow both undercooked and overcooked. Ethan still asked impossible questions. Mom, yes, if sharks lived in rivers, would people still go fishing? I honestly don't know. Emma still practiced piano every afternoon, stopping every few minutes to ask if she sounded professional yet. Gloria still visited every other weekend whenever she could. She brought books, homemade soup, fresh flowers, and somehow always knew exactly when I needed a hug without asking why. One Saturday afternoon, she watched Noah helping Ethan build a birdhouse in the backyard. She smiled at me. You picked a good man. I know, I don't mean because he loves you. I looked at her. I mean because he shows up every day. That sentence stayed with me. Showing up, it sounded simple, until you realized how many people never did. About 6 months later, my assistant walked into my office carrying a magazine. You've got a feature. I looked up. What? She placed the magazine on my desk. A regional business publication had listed Very Comply Solutions among the fastest growing technology companies in the Pacific Northwest. There was a photograph of Noah and me standing outside our office. Neither of us looked glamorous. We looked tired, which felt accurate. Noah laughed when he saw it. They really couldn't find a picture where I looked awake. You've never looked awake. That article led to another interview, then another. Nothing huge, nothing national, just enough that our names became searchable, just enough that people back in Ashford started hearing them. I didn't know any of this until Melissa called one afternoon. We had stayed loosely connected over the years after college. She still lived outside Ashford and knew everyone. Evelyn, you sound serious. I need to ask you something. Okay. Have you talked to your parents recently? The question caught me off guard. No. They've been talking. I leaned back in my chair. Talking about what? You. I waited. People around town figured out your company is doing well. I sighed. Small towns always know. You have no idea. Melissa hesitated. Your mom got asked about you after church last Sunday. I closed my eyes. What happened? Mrs. Collins walked right up to her and said she must be proud of her daughter. And your mom smiled. I almost laughed. She smiled for about 3 seconds. Melissa's voice softened. Then someone asked when she was planning to visit her grandchildren. Silence settled between us. I don't think she expected that. No, she couldn't answer. I imagined my mother standing in the fellowship hall with a paper plate of cookies in her hand, surrounded by women who had watched Claire and me grow up. Women who believed they knew our family. Women who suddenly realized they didn't. Melissa continued. It wasn't mean. Evelyn. I know. They were genuinely asking. Somehow that made it worse. There was no attack, just truth. After we hung up, I stared out my office window for a long time. Noah knocked gently before stepping inside. You okay? I nodded. Melissa called. He sat across from me. And they finally noticed I exist. His expression changed. I don't like the sound of that. Neither do I. A few weeks later, Richard finally spoke. Not to me, to Patricia. Melissa only learned about it because Richard's brother happened to overhear the conversation after Sunday service. Apparently, my father had waited until they reached the parking lot. He said quietly, "We should call Evelyn." Patricia answered without slowing her steps. Why? Because she's our daughter. We made our decision years ago. Richard tried again. We could still fix this. According to Melissa, my mother stopped beside her car. No, she can fix it. Then she drove away. When Melissa told me, I did not know what hurt more. The fact that my father had finally spoken. or that it had taken nearly 8 years. Not long after that, Claire texted me. It was the first message I had received from her in years. "Hey, long time." I stared at my phone. No apology, no explanation, just 3 words. I answered politely, "Hope you're doing well." Over the next 2 weeks, she sent a few casual messages. Nothing unusual. She asked about Portland, about the weather, about the kids. Then the questions slowly changed. "Do you still live in Selwood?" "No, we moved." "Oh, nice. Which neighborhood?" I answered vaguely. A day later, "Are the kids in public school?" "They love their school." "What does Noah do these days?" "He still works too much." She sent a laughing emoji. Then another question. "Your company must be doing really well." I looked at the screen for a long time before replying, "We're grateful." She never once asked if I was happy, only what we owned, where we lived, how business was going. That was when something inside me shifted. Not anger, recognition. A week later, Melissa called again. This time, she sounded uncomfortable. "I got something." "What is it?" I almost didn't send it. She forwarded 3 screenshots. Someone from church had quietly passed them along after realizing Melissa and I were still friends. I opened the images. It was a family group conversation. Patricia had written first. "If the reports are true, Evelyn has more money than she could ever spend." Claire replied, "Helping family would be the right thing to do." Several minutes later came one message from Richard. "Please don't do this." Then my mother's final response. "After everything we gave her, she owes this family." I read those 4 sentences over and over. Noah walked into my office carrying 2 cups of coffee. He knew immediately something was wrong. "What happened?" I handed him my phone. He read every message without speaking. When he finished, he set the phone down very carefully. "I've been angry before." He looked at me. "But I don't think I've ever been disappointed like this." I reached for his hand. "They don't know us anymore." "They never tried." We sat there quietly. Finally, Noah asked the only question that mattered. "What do you want to do?" I looked toward the framed photo on my bookshelf. Ethan covered in mud after soccer practice. Emma missing 2 front teeth and smiling anyway. Gloria standing behind them with flour on her apron after teaching them how to bake biscuits. My job is to protect this family. And your mother. I took a slow breath. I don't know if she even wants to be part of one. A few days later, Rachel Donovan came by the office to review updates to our estate plan before the company completed another funding round. She flipped through several documents. "Everything looks good." She smiled. "Just remember, as your life changes, your legal documents should change too." She paused. "Keep records. Keep everything." I almost laughed. "If only you knew." "What?" "Nothing." She closed the folder. You'd be surprised how often paperwork tells the real story. That evening, after everyone had gone to bed, I opened the bottom drawer of my desk. The blue binder was waiting exactly where I had left it. I did not add another page. I simply turned through them slowly. Wedding photo, returned Christmas card, birth announcements, the opened envelope. Every page represented a choice someone else had made. For the first time, I wondered if the day would actually come when I would have to open this binder in front of the people who had unknowingly filled it. 7 days later, my cell phone rang while I was watering flowers in the backyard. The screen showed a name I had not seen in 8 years. Patricia Brooks. I watched it ring until it stopped. The voicemail came 3 minutes later. I did not listen to it right away. I stood in the backyard with the hose still running, watching water pool around Gloria's lavender bushes while my heart beat so hard I could feel it in my throat. Ethan and Emma were inside arguing over whose turn it was to feed the dog. Noah was upstairs on a call. The house was alive with the ordinary noise of the life I had fought so hard to protect. My mother had waited 8 years to call, and somehow, I already knew it was not because she missed my voice. 2 days later, she came to the house. Noah opened the door. He did not smile, but he was polite. Patricia. She looked past him, searching for me. I need to speak with Evelyn. Noah stepped aside. She's in the kitchen. I was standing by the table when she walked in. She wore a gray coat, pearl earrings, and the same careful expression she used at church when someone brought up a subject she wanted to control. In one hand, she held a leather folder. In the other was the handle of a small suitcase. Behind her, unexpectedly, stood my father. Richard Brooks looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, maybe, but in spirit. His shoulders were rounded, his face tired, and when his eyes met mine, he looked away first. My mother noticed him. "Richard, wait outside." He did not move. For the first time in my life, my father disobeyed her in front of me. "No, Patricia." The kitchen went quiet. Noah looked at me. I nodded once. My father stepped inside. My mother sat at the table and opened the folder. I don't want this to be unpleasant. I almost laughed, but I didn't. She slid several pages toward me. "We've had time to think about what would be fair." There was that word again. Fair. The total at the bottom was the same number I had seen in Chapter 1 of that terrible day. $947,500. Mortgage balance. Retirement fund. Medical costs. College fund for Claire's son. Mason. Monthly support. She spoke like a person presenting a business proposal. "Your father needs medical care. Claire is raising a child. Your company has done very well. Families are supposed to help each other." I waited until she finished. Then I asked, "Is there anything else you came here to say?" Her mouth tightened. "I just said quite a lot." "No. You listed expenses." She blinked. "I don't know what you want from me." That was when I stood up and walked to my office. The blue binder was in the bottom drawer, beneath tax files and old insurance papers. I carried it back with both hands and placed it on the table beside her folder. My mother stared at it. "What is that?" "My list." She frowned. I opened the binder. Not all of it. I did not need to bury her in paper. I only needed enough truth to make denial impossible. I took out the first sleeve. "This is the letter you sent before my wedding. The one where you told me not to expect this family to stand beside me if I married Noah." Her eyes moved to the page. I was upset. I placed the next sleeve beside it. "This is the wedding photo I mailed you. Returned unopened." Then another. Christmas card. Returned. Another. Dad's birthday card. Returned. Another. Ethan's birth announcement. Returned. Another. Emma's birth announcement. Opened. Resealed. Then returned. My father's breathing changed. My mother did not look at him. I turned to the screenshot. "And this is the message where you wrote that I owed this family." Patricia's face changed. The softness disappeared. The woman from my childhood returned. The one who could make an entire room obey her by becoming still. "You had no right to read private messages." I looked at her. "You had no right to send back pictures of my children." For the first time, she had no answer. My father stepped closer to the table. "Evelyn." His voice cracked. I opened the picture of Emma. My mother's head snapped toward him. "Richard." He ignored her. I opened Ethan's too. My chest tightened. He looked at me with eyes full of things he should have said years earlier. I kept the photo for maybe 5 minutes. I held it in my hand. "He looked like you when you were little. Then your mother saw it." Patricia whispered. "Stop." But he didn't. I let her make me put it back. I let her make me send it away. I told myself keeping peace in the house was better than starting a fight. He swallowed. It wasn't peace. It was cowardice. The room blurred for a second. He wiped his face with the back of his hand. You don't owe me forgiveness. You don't owe me anything. But I owe you the truth. I should have called. I should have come to the hospital. I should have stood beside you at your wedding. I failed you for one brief, dangerous moment. I saw my mother's face soften. She looked at the returned envelopes, the photos, the dates written in my handwriting. Her fingers trembled slightly against the edge of the table. I thought, maybe now, maybe this is the moment. Then she looked up. If you had not forced us into that position, none of this would have happened. The hope died quietly. Noah moved to stand beside me, not in front of me. He did not speak. He simply placed his hand on the back of my chair. That small touch said everything. I was not alone. I closed the binder. The metal rings clicked shut. Mom, I will not give you money. Her expression hardened. After everything we did for you, you raised me. That is not a loan. She stood. We fed you. We clothed you. We paid for school supplies. And then you erased me because I married a man you didn't approve of. I looked toward Noah. This man loved me when I had nothing to offer but a rented apartment, student loans, and a family that would not call me back. Then I looked at my father. Dad, if you want to know Ethan and Emma, we start slowly. Phone calls first. No visits. No money. No pretending the last 8 years didn't happen. He nodded immediately. Whatever you allow is more than I deserve. It is exactly what you deserve right now. Not more. Not less. My mother stared at me as if I had become someone she could not recognize. If I want to see them. I took a breath. Then you start with the truth. Not with excuses. Not with money. Not with what people at church think. You tell me you were wrong. And you mean it. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. A few seconds later, she gathered her papers. But not all of them. One sheet remained on the table. The one with the final total. She left without touching it. My father paused at the doorway. I love you, Evelyn. For once, I believed him. But believing him and trusting him were not the same thing. After they left, Noah locked the door and turned back to me. I expected to cry. I didn't. I only felt tired. That evening, Rachel Donovan confirmed what I already knew. Our trust was updated. Our will was clear. Our healthcare directives were signed. No one outside the family Noah and I had built had any claim to our children's future. You did the right thing, Rachel said. I don't know if it feels like right. It usually doesn't at first. Later that night, Claire called. I almost didn't answer. When I did, her voice was sharp. You could have just helped. I looked at the kitchen table where the binder still sat. No, Claire. I could have paid. That's not the same thing. She said nothing. I hung up first. An hour later, Gloria arrived with an apple pie because Noah had called her. And because Gloria had always understood that food was sometimes just another way of saying, I am here. Ethan ran to her. Grandma Gloria. Emma followed, wrapping both arms around her waist. Gloria kissed the tops of their heads and looked at me over their shoulders. She did not ask what happened. She already knew enough. After the children were asleep, I opened the binder one last time. I did not add my mother's demand sheet. I did not add Claire's call. Instead, I wrote a letter to Ethan and Emma and placed it in the back pocket. If you ever read this, I hope you understand that this was never about teaching you how to hate. It was about teaching you that love without respect is not love. You have to accept. Then I closed the binder and put it away. Not hidden. Just away. The next morning, life continued. Noah burned toast. Emma complained that Ethan used all the syrup. Ethan asked if Grandma Gloria could come to his school concert twice, just in case one time wasn't enough. And for the first time in years, I did not wonder whether my mother would call. I had spent so long waiting for Patricia Brooks to become the mother I needed. That day, I finally understood I had already built a family without her, and it was whole. If you were in my place, would you have given Patricia another chance? Or would you have kept the door closed? Tell me what you think, because I know families are never as simple as people pretend they are. And if this story stayed with you, stay with this channel for more stories about truth, boundaries, and the kind of karma that doesn't need revenge to be powerful.